The Florida Podcast Network, the voice of Florida.
This is Gerard with episode number 6 of Florida's Fresh Mix on the Florida Podcast Network, a random mix of Florida's freshest personalities.
Hello, this is Amber, the production assistant for the Florida Podcast Network. And of course, I'm here with your host, Gerard. And once again, I'm very excited for another fantastic conversation. Today's guest is Darius Murray. And I was just about to list his credentials, but he has so many, we would never get into the conversation if I even attempted that. So, but Darius is a certified vocational rehabilitation counselor at his private practice called ReAble-U.
Darius is literally a godsend. He was put on this planet to do good, and that comes across in the interview. You know, my dad has said about my nephew, for instance, that he's a good soul. He used to say that about me, but apparently I'm not the prince of the household anymore. So, but that phrase "good soul" has resonated with me my entire life, and that's what came to mind when I was interviewing Darius.
Wow. Yeah, no, I think good soul is the perfect title for Darius. And Gerard, I think you should give yourself some more credit because once again, like with other guests in the past, you share something really cool with Darius, and that is that you are both involved with Big Brothers Big Sisters mentorship organization. And it was also just wonderful to hear both of your guys' different experiences, one on the mentor side and the other on the mentee side.
I have to say it's probably one of the most poignant, important decisions I've ever made in my life. And the friendship and the love that I have for my mentee, Ronald, who is basically a member of my family at this point, I'm pretty proud of it.
I know you should be. I mean, that's an incredible thing to do for someone. And I always enjoy hearing about people who dedicate their lives to helping those who are on the autism spectrum. Like my brother's fiance, who I just absolutely love with all my heart, she's studying to become a board-certified behavior analyst for autistic children. And to see her passion and Darius's passion for working with a group of people who are often stigmatized and misunderstood, it's just so refreshing. So this conversation really hit home for me.
I completely hear you because when we did this interview, I knew that a very close friend of mine has a son that's on the spectrum. I hadn't really gotten to know him yet. So we did this interview. And then since then, I've gotten to know him. And coincidentally, he's right now, as we speak, looking for a job. It's exactly what Darius does for a living. So when I listened back to the interview, all the things he was talking about are, about the little pushes, the little tools that, some people need.
Yeah. And he gets right into all of that, all the nitty gritty about what it takes for him and I'm sure his staff to help people, like you said, your friend's son, or just other people on the autism spectrum. But he doesn't only work with autistic people. So listeners, you will hear all about the work that he does in just a bit. But now it's time for the sponsor shout out. So I'm sure if you've been listening to the past couple of episodes, you will hear a major difference between Gerard's voice now.
Here again is my voice now.
And Gerard's voice in the interview, which we recorded weeks ago. And I'm again using the same model of microphone that Gerard used for his interview with Darius. So I'm sure you can already tell the difference in sound quality between my mic and Gerard's brand new Shure MV7 provided by our equipment sponsor, Mainline Marketing. The quality of sound from the Shure MV7 is just significantly better, okay? And you're definitely going to hear how much better Gerard's sound quality has been now and the rest of the show compared to the interview. So with that, let's jump right into Gerard's conversation with Darius Murray.
Hello, Darius. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing fantastic. I really appreciate talking to somebody who's done so much good. You live your life every day doing good. And I don't know how many people can say that. We've got all these bad things happening in the news. Let's give the people out there some positivity. All right.
Oh, let's do it.
Tell me about ReAble-U. And the way that I want you to tell me is, as an attorney, I get a new client and I have to, let's say I have to do a contract for them. And I say to them, let me understand your business, because that's the best way I can draft this contract for you, negotiate for you, etc. Talk to me like I'm 5. If I'm your client, What do you do for me?
ReAble-U is a therapy and consulting company. We specialize in comprehensive vocational evaluations, career counseling, mentoring, transition counseling, that step from what happens after high school and how do we get into college or how do we get into the next career. Working with individuals who are making a career shift or who've been impacted by a disability, whether it be physical, mental, or emotional. We also create and develop personal programs for youth-based community organizations, whether they're STEM-based programs or whether they're programs based on self-advocacy skills, building self-awareness, employment readiness. We kind of go through the whole gamut when it comes down to really supporting individuals with disabilities and without disabilities as they make those transitions into employment or from one form of employment to another.
How does the mental health aspect fit in?
The beauty of it is that they all kind of intertwine. A little bit of my history. So I got my bachelor's degree in interpersonal communications and mental health. I found myself taking a lot of women's studies classes, and I was just like, man, for some reason I get this. It might have been because I have 5 sisters. So that may have a lot to do with it.
Wait, hold on. Just put a pin on that, Darius. You said that you have a degree. I know you have several. I don't even know what these mean. EDS, MED, CRC. I don't even know what these things mean. So why don't you explain what all these things are?
Yeah, so, I have a bachelor's degree in mental health and behavioral health and interpersonal communications. I have a master's degree in rehabilitation counseling. I would like to get a PhD. So I started taking some courses and I was able to obtain another degree, which is an EDS, so it's an education specialist degree with a specialty in mental health counseling. With all that together, I also hold a national certification as a national certified vocational rehabilitation counselor, and I'm also a mental health counseling intern. So I started ReAble-U with the intentions to help individuals with disabilities get back into the workforce, mainly working with a lot of individuals on the autism spectrum, as again, they transition from high school to the community or high school to college or high school into the workforce.
I think that the layperson doesn't really fully understand what the spectrum means. And clearly you know what it means. So how do we explain to the layperson what the spectrum means?
Yeah, so, individuals that have a diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder will struggle with areas of communication, areas of daily living skills. They may need some prompting, they may need some support in other areas. And then some of them, and that's why we call it a spectrum, they could be on that other side of the spectrum where they have these quirks or they have these small areas where we need to do some detailing, but it's hard for them to understand the bigger picture, hard for them to kind of gravitate towards concepts. But these individuals are capable of doing, and these are some of the typical things that, me and you do on a daily basis that come natural. Whereas, I know to kind of get up, shower, go through a routine, and then kind of get out of the house. Some of those things will be kind of left off. And then those really impair their daily living skills, their ability to kind of be employed or kind of go out and meet other people. But when we talk about autism spectrum, we talk about a neurocognitive disorder that really impacts a wide variety of areas in an individual's life, whether it could be verbal, nonverbal, it could be physical, mental. There's different things that go on. So that's why we do call it a spectrum. If you hold that umbrella up, there's just so many outlets there that allow us to kind of really say, okay, this person may meet this category, but they don't fit all of these areas. But, this is how we would work with an individual who fits this category or in this area.
That makes perfect sense. And I think that I want to kind of get more into your peers program because, correct me if I'm wrong, please, but it seems to me that some people on the spectrum, they have all the skills, they have the readiness to get out there into the world and to work and be positive contributors to society, but they might not have the social skills. How do you help people to cross that bridge? And it might even cross over into dating.
Yeah.
How does your peers program work?
So that's a big area, actually. Let's talk about dating. Let's talk about dating and employment. So like you said, we have someone who has...
Because dating is confusing for just anybody. So.
Yeah, it's confusing for all of us. Can you imagine not understanding social cues? Can you imagine not being able to read body language? Understand that, I should open the door for her. Or understand, I need to call this person back to let them know that I'm interested rather than, they're going to call me. Or
not to interrupt, but is a part of the problem also taking things that people say literally?
No, I mean, that is part of the problem. taking things literally, taking things and not being able to see that kind of gray area. One of the things that I'll say is it's raining cats and dogs. And I've literally had a student or a young person go outside and look. We know that that's the saying that it's just raining really, really hard. Just that little piece where they're expecting one thing, that expectation, and being able to shift those things can be very hard. So the Peers program has been around for several years, using mentors to provide this type of coaching, because we know that when a parent tells us you're too loud, or a parent says, you shouldn't do that in the workplace, or you shouldn't do this, it doesn't really seem, it's like, Mom, you don't know, or Dad, you don't know. But if a mentor says it, or even a peer mentor says it, there's that little affirmation that clicks in. And there's like, oh, maybe this person is telling me something. I really respect Darius because he's kind of cool and he drives a cool car, or whatever it may be, whatever that accolade may be, that mentor is able to kind of teach them and coach them in different areas. We all know that social skills are needed to thrive, not only in the community, within our social circles, but also within the workplace. And then on top of that, in the relationship area. In Peers, we work on things like stepping in and stepping out of a conversation, how to handle a disagreement with someone and not take things literal, how not to be a conversation hog. Sometimes we see with our individuals on the spectrum, they just want to consistently talk about one thing, and they'll perseverate over that topic about Star Wars and that one single episode. And it's helping them to understand that sometimes if you want to be around other people, you have to be able to enjoy or being able to engage in things that those people want to do, not just what you want to do. Then there's the fixation on different things. We see that when we're working with someone in the dating area, what are those things that you probably shouldn't do? You probably shouldn't smell her hair. You probably shouldn't say certain things. All that kind of stuff really kind of impacts individuals, not only when it comes down to dating, relationships, if it comes down to friendships. How do I keep engaged with this friend? How do I let this friend know that I want to hang out with them? And, I'm not just, going to randomly call them on a Tuesday after they haven't heard from me in 3 months. So teaching them those skills that will help them to be a good friend, but also a good social asset while they're in the community, or a good representation of what they want to be as a partner. So that's our Peers program. Like I said, it's offered all year round. We do group and individual based. It's really designed to help individuals become more social, as well as get them out of their own bubble.
Can I ask you 2 stupid questions?
Never a stupid question. Go for it.
That's what I always tell me. That's what I always tell people. I find the dating aspect very fascinating. So my first question is, do you have any opinion either way to your clients about when should they disclose that they're on the spectrum, or should they kind of hide it and try to not let that become an issue? Is that the goal, or is it to just be upfront with it right away?
We always try to teach them to highlight their attributes, the things that make them who they are, the things they do really well. And if, hey, you know what, you can tell me your date of birth, and I can tell you what day you were born, and maybe even the weather. Or if you could tell me, an author, and I can tell you everything that person's written. If it's, retaining facts, if it's a great talent, or even if it's, I make the best PB&J sandwich in town. I mean, I even cut off the crust, whatever it may be. But you know what? Sometimes I get a little nervous, or sometimes I may not understand social cues. And that's just really because of my autism. And if you highlight it in that way, and you make that not only an attribute, but an asset, I think it helps to open up that conversation. Because many people say they hear autism, but if you say, I have autism and it impacts me like this, it gives that person not only an understanding of what autism is and how it may impact you as an individual, but it also helps them understand, okay, well, this is what the commitment will look like. Oh, this person just doesn't like to touch things because they're OCD, or whatever it may be, just make sure we got extra hand sanitizer and I'll get the doors, whatever it may be. There's a person out there for everybody. But really, it's all about helping that individual with autism or with a disability understand how to essentially brag about themselves and bring up their disability. The more they normalize it, the easier it is also for that partner to normalize it.
I love what you said about turning it into an asset, because first of all, I've had OCD my whole life. Okay, like hardcore. My sister can attest to this. I'm constantly washing my hands. My family makes fun of me for it. Every time we're out at dinner, I must wash my hands incessantly. As soon as sanitizer came out, I was addicted to sanitizer. So this COVID thing, it ain't no thing to me. It's like normal. I need things to be at I was ready. I need things to be at right angles constantly. When I meet someone new, if I care about them, I'm like, listen, baby, you're going to have to understand. Like, this is my thing. I can't change it. It's just the way it is. But I think if you take ownership of it, I think it could be a positive thing, and it could set you apart, and it shows a degree of confidence in a way.
Yeah. A woman loves a man with confidence, either confidence in himself or his work. That's a huge plus in a relationship or in a suitor.
But even just as, let's say you're just a coworker, you want to get along with your coworkers, and you don't want them to see you as the other, right? So I think if you take ownership and be like, these are my quirks, this is the person you're going to get to enjoy as your colleague. This leads to my second question, which is, are you able to get your clients to take the leap to not only recognizing things like humor and sarcasm, but to be humorous and sarcastic themselves? I feel like if, I'm just thinking logically, if they would be able to do it themselves, they could easily recognize it. Is that possible?
So you strike an interesting conversation, right? I know so many individuals who have a diagnosis of autism who are funny. They are witty. They always have a
Wait,
joke.
intentionally or unintentionally? That's the question, Darius.
It's intentionally. They understand that humor could be a good way to open up that conversation. But then, they may struggle with other areas of really understanding how someone's playing back with them. When is someone either bullying me or is someone actually joking with me? Those are the things that can be hard for them. And then when you talk about understanding that humor and then using that humor, yeah, it can be difficult for someone who just doesn't really get humor to kind of crack a joke. But when it happens, it's like, whoa, there's a light bulb that goes off and you're like, wow, okay, this is a great thing. We've gotten a breakthrough here. They're using the humor. We all know that using humor, you have to understand how to read the conversation. If I just start cracking interesting jokes about spaceships, this interview would go completely left field. When that conversation can go left field, it can be really hard. So it really is about helping our individuals understand the conversation and navigate it. So to answer your question, we see those breakthroughs and we see the use of humor. But then, sometimes there's still some things that get people kind of caught up. But I do see a lot of really great humor from individuals that I work with. So humor's there. It's just being able to use it in the right way.
I saw a video on YouTube of this guy who's on the spectrum, African-American fellow, and he took a helicopter over, I think it was New York City, and then he went right back to his studio and drew from memory the entire New York skyline in exquisite detail. And so I think part of it is recognizing, what is your gift, finding it and exploiting it and embracing it. Do you have people that use your expertise that are just looking for a job and that have no disabilities?
Yeah. I've worked with individuals at the age of 67 with a diagnosis of COPD and needed now a career change because they worked in the restaurant industry. So what do you do with someone like that? Well, they have some skills. How do we highlight those transferable skills that they have from the restaurant industry and now take them away from that smoky environment and putting them into a place where it's conducive to not only their health, but, also their age. So at ReAble-U, we support just about anyone. I have clients who are literally just coming, hey, I need help with my resume and practicing my interviewing skills. Or, we're working on adding this type of curriculum to our program, and how can you guys help us support that? And that really entitles me going into an organization providing education.
Darius, what is your why? Why do you do this? What inspired you to take this route, to give back in this way?
I think, as we talk about the journey of mentoring, and I was a student, I was mentored. I still talk with my mentor. We have weekly and sometimes monthly conversations. I got matched with him when I was in the fifth grade. So I think we were talking about 8 years old, now 35 years old. He's been a part of not only my growth as well as my development. Him and my mom have been my two biggest cheerleaders, bullhorns, whatever you want to call them. They've seen me walk across so many stages and only embrace me as I continue to do that. But as a child who went through the mentoring process and kind of saw, a lot of things in the school system, as well as growing up and then looking at some of my friends go through different things in the school system, as well as just in society, I have a voice. For some reason, it's heard when I speak. And why can't I use that? But in a positive way, in a way of not only just talking for people or talking up for people and advocating, but giving individuals the tools they need to thrive tomorrow independently. When I was at USF, I was studying speech pathology. They said, you got to take an elective class, took a mental health class, fell in love. And then I met this one friend who introduced me to her vocational counselor. And he sat there, and I wasn't even his client. I probably shouldn't even have been in the room, but he took 30 minutes to tell me exactly what he does. And I said, whoa, you help individuals get education. You find ways to help them find employment, maintain their independence. You provide guidance and counseling. That seems like a great passion for me. So I went for it. And it has been an amazing, amazing walk in this life as a vocational counselor, or even just supporting individuals with disabilities or facing adversity, whether it's a young kid that I'm working with big brothers and big sisters, or an adult who is literally just trying to figure out ways that they can get engaged in their community. It's always fun. It's always adventurous. It's always a discovery process. And I think this is where I can say the universe is using me.
I really like that. Universe is using me. I'm going to steal that from you, just so you know.
I mean, they're using both of us. They're finding ways for us to collide and create supernovas, which I think that's where Jimmy's going to shine in. And that's how we want to work. And we're going to continue to toot these horns and kind of show the light that, hey, there's so many great things going on out here, and there's so much hope. Because before, when someone had a diagnosis of autism, they were many times institutionalized, rejected from the family. There's no programs or no services. Parents had to become the biggest advocates. And now there's so much education, but it's what do we do with that education? We take it and we meet a rehabilitation counselor, and now we can thrive. We can overcome what that pediatrician said. It's all about helping and making sure people understand those things and have access to those services.
Mentorship is near and dear to my heart. You and I are both connected to Big Brothers Big Sisters on different sides of it, which I found fascinating. I joined Big Brothers Big Sisters as a mentor when I was a young attorney. I think I was a third-year attorney. It's one thing to write a check to a charity, and it's another thing to just influence one person's life. And I decided to do the latter. So I got with my little brother Ronald when he was 8 years old. His father had been murdered for no rational reason when he was 5 years old. And now he's 26, and we're extremely close. As someone who's been a mentee, how do you draw upon that experience? What do you learn from that? And how did it inspire you to connect people on the mentor side now?
It's a good question. So one of the things I got to do when I worked at Big Brothers and Big Sisters was I worked on this mentor enhancement grant. The purpose of that grant was to give mentors tools, so that way they're not so much a social worker, but they're an asset to the family. They know how to route the family to a resource. Hey, they had that at the local YMCA, or, maybe we can get some help with the teachers at the school or something like that. Sometimes that resource or that little ounce of help is better welcome from that mentor than sometimes even the agency, because that mentor actually has been a part of that family. They've grown, they've understand, and sometimes it could be a way for that mentor to be accepted even more. It's like this person is really here to help. I saw the ability to be able to continue giving mentors those skills and training volunteers to be proactive, training volunteers to not only be an asset for their match, but for their community. I feel that that's where that passion comes from, being able to coach a mentor, to influence that mentor, to make an asset in that community, an advocate now, not only in their workplace, but in their condominium complex, whatever it may be. They understand that, this parent may be dealing with something more. That child may be dealing with a little bit more than what we're seeing. It's not a disciplinary issue. So, when I think about mentoring, I think about those elements, being tied to your community, being tied to that case manager and that agency, not just looking at them as, hey, they have this or they have that, but maybe even just for some educational tips, as well as the compassion that goes into developing that relationship. You said you have a mentee who's 26 years old. That's amazing. The fact that you even keep in touch with him after that.
I consider him a member of my family. It's
a member of the family. Yeah. I mean, that's it right there. We are honorary members of each other's families. When that little potion is done the right way, oh man, the magic is beautiful. I've seen people just kind of fit in, and I'm just like, wait, what did we find a long lost cousin? It just happens really well. And I think that's really what I like to see in mentoring, is seeing those results. The family's getting connected, the family's having the resources, and then that mentoring being empowered and feeling great about the work that they're doing and continuing to want to practice and advocate for that individual or individuals like them in their community.
Before we go, I have to ask you a totally random question. Why DC over Marvel?
Ooh.
Wait, you better be honest. You better be honest.
Oh man, I just think it's got to be the characters, it's the adventures, it's the style.
Who's your number one? Who's your number one?
I'm a Hulk fan all the way.
Oh, I've never heard that before. Oh, interesting.
So I actually drive.
But that's Avengers. That's Marvel.
It is Avengers. I also love Captain America because of what he stands for, right? You know, he's this person that's fighting for American justice. He's got this pride. He was that underdog.
Wait, that's also Marvel. Wait a second. I haven't heard Batman or Superman. Oh, you're getting there? Okay, go ahead.
No. This is kind of where I'm at. You know, Batman and Superman. Superman's also another great one for me. I have Superman stickers all over my car. So if you see me and you see ReAble-U, because we're super too. I don't know if it's DC over Marvel completely. It's just there's certain things I really enjoy. I like when the Hulk smashes. I like the fact that, you know, he has the ability to still be this huge, gentle giant. When you can connect with him and meet him where he is. You know, sometimes that's that energy that we all have, right? It's like, oh, we feel really big, but it's just a small space. But then there's always that one person that can sing us a lullaby and kind of bring us down or help us kind of get to that moment. So I'm all about both of them. It's just I'm not really a big Batman fan, so I'm sorry to interrupt that one, to disappoint you on that one.
That's fine with me. I don't have the emotions that some people have over this debate. I love DC and I love Marvel. I will admit that my favorite superhero is Superman, but I love Marvel as well. Can't we just coexist? Can't we all just get along?
Exactly.
Which is kind of funny for me to say, considering what just happened yesterday. And I'm thinking about Rodney King, and we finally won one. But that's a totally different topic.
We can always talk about it.
I have no idea when this is going to be released, but yesterday, Derek Chauvin, or maybe it was 2 days ago, Derek Chauvin was convicted for the murder of George Floyd. So that's what we're talking about. I just want to make sure that everyone has the context. Are we breathing a collective sigh of relief? Isn't it a little bit sad that we thought that it might go another way?
You know, these are one of those things where we always think there's going to be some justice, and sometimes it doesn't. You know, things off, like you said, they topple in the other direction. But it's nice to be heard. It's nice that things are being recognized. It's unfortunate that these things have to happen, and then something else has to happen. You know, another person's life has to be destroyed. Just like those superheroes, our law enforcement, our attorneys, our doctors, they have superpowers, and they're here to help us. They're here to be there for us, whether it's defend us or save someone from us. I just
the good ones.
The good ones. Yeah. And I would just like for them to use those powers in the right way. You know, we are here to continue to march forward, continue to move forward, and continue to fight for a form of justice for not just individuals of color, but for everyone. Everyone.
I'm tired of remaining stagnant, and it looks like a step in the right direction. It might sound a little bit off color to say that about someone spending the rest of his life in jail, but he made a mistake, or he did it intentionally. It seems intentional to me, but that's obviously not the topic of this discussion. But I think it relates to trying to do what you're doing, which is move society in the right direction. And you do that every day with your commitment to helping people who need help and ask for help. That's the other thing. Ask for help if you
Asking for help is the biggest piece there. For individuals of color, individuals of minority or disabilities, don't be afraid to ask for help.
I am very happy we have people like you, my brother Darius, to help people give those tools, hone those tools, recognize the need for those tools, and slowly but surely we'll get to a better place. And Darius, where can people find you on social media, et cetera?
You can definitely find us at our website, www.ReAble-U Therapy.com. We are on Instagram at ReAble-U Therapy. Everything is ReAble-U Therapy. We have social events, we have group nights, whatever it is. Again, it's www.ReAble-U Therapy.com or at ReAble-U Therapy on Instagram. And my phone number is 305-753-5554. I'm always happy to take a call.
Excellent. Thank you so much, brother. It's been very inspiring. I feel like tomorrow I'm gonna walk out and be a better person because of this interview.
And I want to thank you, Gerard. First off, you and your sister for providing these platforms for individuals like us to continue to inspire and get our voices heard. And you know, your time is always extremely appreciated in what you guys do. So thank you and continue to doing that.
Well, I appreciate that, but our job is just to get the word out there in any way that can benefit society. There's too much negative going on, and my sister and I are both dedicated to igniting, exploring, and facilitating positive voices. And you're definitely that, brother. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
What a great interview with Darius Murray. I was so blown away by his sense of humanity. And I was not joking when I said that I'm going to steal his phrase, the universe is using me. He said they're using us to collide and create supernovas. And what I draw from that is we can each individually, through our good deeds, affect one person who might affect 3, who might affect 10, and then there are just exponential ways to help people. And the one word that kept coming into my mind during the interview was nudge. So let me explain. I think that when people think about autism and they're somewhat ignorant about it, as I was prior to this interview, they might think that, people with somewhat of a severe disability and they might need 24/7 around the clock care or something like that. But it's called a spectrum for a reason. You have some people that are fully functioning members of society, but they just need a little nudge, a little guidance as far as, okay, so you're going to try to move into the work environment, how to handle sarcasm, how to fill out a job application the right way, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that this is an area of the autism spectrum that has, I don't want to say been largely ignored, but I don't think it's the first thing that people think of when they think about autism. I think that it is a sliver of the spectrum that needs to be addressed. But not only with respect to autism, there are a plethora of people out there that might just be what I would say is a smidge from success. And, they just need a little nudge to get them across that line. If they want to start their journey to success, they can't do it themselves. They need a nudge from someone like you, someone like me, someone who has that experience, someone who's compassionate, someone that has a particular knowledge base, et cetera, et cetera. So I was thinking, who can you give your nudge to? As I mentioned in the intro, I have a very close friend who I love very dearly, who has a son that is on the spectrum. He's very fully functioning 17-year-old kid. But I feel that maybe I can give him a little nudge, a little guidance, a little bit here and a little bit there to get him across the threshold to be the man that I know he can be, because he is a good soul. So what can you do? Can you mentor someone? And it doesn't necessarily mean joining Big Brothers Big Sisters, although I would highly encourage it, because there are so many kids out there that need a good mentor. And we've included a link to Big Brothers Big Sisters in the show notes. You can be a mentor virtually, or it could be something as simple as recognizing that there's a neighbor or someone else who could benefit from your lending an ear or providing words of wisdom or guidance, because you never know. Take it from someone who has had a single phrase said by his own father that has changed the trajectory of my own life. And that's happened several times. So that little nudge that can reset the course of our lives. I firmly believe this. I've experienced it. That opportunity exists around us every single day. So that's my fresh take. I hope you enjoyed the interview and join us for the next episode of the Fresh Mix podcast. For details and show notes about today's show and our guests, go to freshmixpodcast.com. I'd really love your feedback, both on today's guest and on my fresh take. The Florida Podcast Network has a closed Facebook group exclusively for super fans of their shows, like Florida's Fresh Mix. Just search for FPN Insiders on Facebook to leave us comments, complain about Florida, like, I don't know, how because you live in Florida, people randomly tell you that they're visiting you. Sometimes they don't even give you any warning, and they just like, oh, guess who's at the airport? I'm in Florida. Can I stay with you? And it's like, it just happens all the time, and it's extremely annoying. Anyway, get early scoops, contests, and other special treats. So we all look forward to hanging out in there with you. And thank you, as always, to our equipment sponsor, Mainline Marketing. And be sure to visit all the great shows on the Florida Podcast Network. You can find them at floridapodcastnetwork.com. Keep catching who's fresh in the Florida Mix with Florida's Fresh Mix podcast.
Flintstone Media has been the digital messaging bedrock of several brands and businesses, serving as a highly resourceful podcast production house and consultancy firm for over 6 years. Visit flintstonemedia.com for podcast samples. From show development and setup through recording and distribution, work with a leader in the industry and add a new podcast to your brand's content offerings. That's flintstonemedia.com.